Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Wednesday, June 8th at 11:44 a.m. This, albeit the title does not express it, is probably one of the most important crypto videos I'll do. This is the future. This is macro. This is what has occurred over the last 14 years. This is what has occurred over the last 2 years. And this is about social order. This is about money. This is about government intervention. This is about lack of government doing proper shit. This is about lack of investment in infrastructure, in psychology. Um, this is a hot topic because everyone sees the headlines that it's a tight labor market. Everyone sees the headlines, the great resignation, that people are leaving their jobs for better jobs to make more money. So there's two components to employment. There's money, there's the increase of salary, and then there's the satisfaction that comes along with a job. If you're making a lot of money, you're not necessarily satisfied. You might go fucking nuts. If all of a sudden prices, wages rise for menial labor, stocking shelves, doesn't make you happy, doesn't make you necessarily less miserable. Still sucks. So social order, I would argue, is on the decline, has been on the decline. And that is not a direction that the system wants to head. And that is not the mandate of government. And clearly, if you start to have social disorder, food, the prices of food and commodities and gasoline and energy are the most common precursor to rioting. And that's a monetary phenomenon, but it should not discount the psychological phenomena of people that are at their breaking points. They're stressed, they're frustrated, they're depressed because jobs suck. Most jobs are absolutely miserable. So the title of the stream is The Labor Market Isn't Tight. We need new forms of productivity. And we need to produce like goods and services. Well, goods, let's stick with commodities. You need to farm, you need to get things on the table, you need to feed people, you need to manufacture the products, electronics, appliances, so on and so forth. So that's obviously the historic core of what employment needs to achieve, that type of productivity. But look at the population just of the US for now. Let's look at it. Let's actually look at it. So the red line is the total population, the blue line is non-farm employees, and the green line is agriculture and related industries. So obviously, people that are farming have completely collapsed. It's crumbling. But that, it's going to lead to automation, which is a good thing because humans shouldn't be farming anymore. It's not a psychologically satisfying form of employment, and it leads to just not a sense of fulfillment. And that's just a natural tendency of things. Everything is going to be automated with robotics. We see the robotics that are available, stocking shelves, so on and so forth. I mean, in the next couple of years, probably 5 to 10 years, fast food restaurants will be completely automated. There's no reason it's not. That's inevitable. It's destined. Car sales are going to be completely automated. I mean, Carvana they already do that shit. So think of how many things. Why is there a human being in a Best Buy? You see it at the airports with the vending machines. Why is a Best Buy not a giant vending machine with just robots that you pick your item, you go in, you're able to look at shit, you go to the purchase area, you pick your item, and it literally here. And then you got the robots in the back that maybe put it on a car or it orders it for delivery. It could be completely automated. People don't need to do that shit because it's a fucking depressing job. I've done these types of jobs. You telling me you need human beings in a pizza shop? We talk about the pizza shop, but what does a human being have to do make pizza anymore? It's much more capital efficient for that enterprise to be completely automated. So we have the increase of employment is pretty much keeping up with from a slope with the increase in population. But look how many people are completely unemployed in the country. It's half the country. There's 150, and there's over 300,000 people, and 300 million people in the country, and there's about 150, give or take, million people employed. Half the population, 1 in 2 people don't work. We have a crisis of labor, but that labor doesn't necessarily need to be stupid retail or working in a fast food restaurant. Now, these are good experiences to understand how miserable the experience is and why you have to push yourself to do better, because we can do better. There's a crisis of labor. So this is where the world is heading. The world is heading into a desperate need for activity, to feel accomplished, to feel productive. And I don't know where it's heading, but we see glimpses of it. We see glimpses of gamification. We see glimpses of disintermediated cash flow and activities that could be done in a non traditional employment setting. We see the manifestation of a digital ecosystem. And it can be physical, and there can be new forms of employment in meat space. But has that occurred? Has there been a massive expansion that has captivated 1/2 of the frickin' American population to do something? To do something and not nothing as part of an organization that participates in the capital flow process? No! We're looking at the chart. It's empirical. The data is right here, and people look at this with regard to the health of the country and our jobs. It's a tight labor market. There's so myopic, and myopic is basically short-sighted. You want to take a little bit of a look down the road. This is a crisis of psychological proportions in chart form, where half the country is doing nothing productive. This is a tragedy, and it literally will most likely end in social disorder. Not chaos necessarily, but riots, especially with the inflation. So, what's desperately needed is new forms of employment. We see the foreshadows of a digital economy. And sure, why is employment not participating in some sort of game system? I mean, the point of it is that you're participating in something with other human beings in a cooperative effort to achieve a degree of satisfaction and accomplishment. So, traditional finance folks will marginalize these types of activities, just like they marginalized the or trivialized or just dismissed in many regards psychological issues. For what, the last half a century? Depression isn't an issue. Get up and do something. Oh, you have anxiety. Oh, get over it. These are not issues to be marginalized, trivialized. These are profound issues that influence the direction of society as a whole. And they cannot be attacked by saying, or cannot be addressed by saying, get a job. Yeah, go work at a pizza shop. Now, that's good for a kid. It's good to have these experiences, but that's not going to solve the needs of a society that has half the population not productive. We need artificial forms of productivity. Not traditional productivity where you're pulling shit out of the ground or manufacturing, but we need to keep the people occupied, productive. And we've seen it with DeFi. We've seen it with Immutable X, Gods Unchained, and whatever other games are available on the platform currently. But there are ways to have compensation in a non-traditional form, to have participation in a non-traditional form, to be productive in a non-traditional form. That's the world we enter. And that's the foreshadow we see. And I bring this up primarily because I love the Bitcoin narrative, and it's meaningful and it's entrenched, but they're so dismissive of smart contract networks, and they call them shit coins, and they're just so nearsighted. It's disappointing because though they talk about personal liberty and they talk about humanitarian efforts, but they completely miss the needs of psychology or the needs or the burden of psychological pain that's pervasive, that's not talked about. And that's exactly what humans have always done. And we're finally starting to enter a period of time where healthcare covers psychology and not employee day, but like employee well-being day or some shit at the office, and it's being taken more seriously. Are people content? And they should take their shit seriously from a national level, because if the population isn't content, you got a depressed ass population. They're not going to be productive in the traditional sense. They're going to hate their jobs. Healthcare costs are going to be expensive, and the society as a whole is not going to head in the right direction. So we have a crisis of labor that's contributing to the not optimal well-being of the psychology of the population, and they're doing nothing about it, and this chart shows it. And Bitcoiners dismiss it. Well, not Bitcoiners. I'm a Bitcoiner. We're all a Bitcoiner on this damn stream. We love this crypto stuff. But the maximalists dismiss it. They talk about hard money only, and everything else is a shitcoin casino. It's not a shitcoin casino. It's iteration. It's experimentation with monetary policy. I mean, oh my God, for the last infinite years throughout history, it was countries that played with monetary policy at the sovereign level, at the central bank level. And you had brief periods of time where the banks, the wildcat banks, dealt with their own money, but there was nothing like what has been done over the last 2 years. Intricate, sophisticated, rich monetary policy. They're so dismissive of something that hasn't happened in history. They marginalize it. They trivialize it. They demonize it. They ridicule it. It's embarrassing. And it's frustrating. They talk of humanitarian needs for hard money. And the psychological need of a population isn't a humanitarian need? There's something wrong with the primary arguments of Bitcoin maximalists against the smart contract networks and what has occurred over the last 2 years. There's something very wrong with it, and it's hypocritical, it's contradictory, because the very essence of a humanitarian need is the experimentation to find successful and functional new forms of productivity. Because half the fucking country doesn't work or do anything. And that's goddamn depressing. Anyway, I wanted to get that off my chest. I know this isn't like, oh, buy X, Y, and Z. It's going to go up. It's going to the moon. Yeah, we're not the typical crypto channel around these parts. 30 people in the stream, 10 likes. Come on, that was some good content. That was quality content right there, boys and girls. Raoul's in the house. Shishka's in the house. Ron Skapinski's in the house from Berlin. It's a pleasure. Inflation's horrible over there. Consumer price inflation. I'm sorry. We're all experiencing it, and I try and help digest what it really is, what it really means. It's not as simple as most people think. Raul, can you please explain, show how and where you are casting your vote as a VECRV holder to receive bribes? You go to votium.app. You're able to see the available bribes. You're able to vote. This is the CVX ETH LP position. You click on the vote. It takes you to the gauge weight vote page on the Dow Curve Finance website. CVX ETH. You find it in the list, which is not so easy. CVX ETH. And you vote with 100% of your voting weight. CVX ETH, 100%. And you could also, so the Hidden Hand has a portal up. No, they don't have Curve yet, but they have Balancer. Pitch, I think, is down still. Nope. Pitch is back up. Pitch has, there's Frax. They don't have Curve. But nobody was using it. Nobody's really using it, unfortunately, at this point. But Warden from Paladin Finance has some bribes. Alchemex is using Warden. It's about 56% of the money. TF, I'm not even sure what that is, but Paladin's also bribing. You can get 50, 60% on your money on VECRV. You just have to vote for the respective pool that's paying the incentivized voting. So here's the two. Warden by Paladin and Vodium. Convex is paying here. So is Synthetics. Synthetics is paying out pretty good. This is about 50 something percent on the money. So it's just a massive revenue stream. Now we'll look at the curve chart in a second to see how our principal is holding up because the cash flow is still there. Vasco, hey, Noah Sam is proposing 20 million FXS buybacks. What do you think about that? That's lovely. Buy it back. Use it as incentives, burn it, do something crafty with it. Everything that comes out of that man's brain is strategic. I've never seen anything like Sam and what he thinks and how he works with the community. The boy doesn't fight with the community. Even when someone is critical of the platform, he's like, all right, let's talk about this. And it's not just, let's talk shit. It's literally, let's freaking talk about it. It's quite extraordinary. Quite impressive. So let's take a look at the FXS chart. Excuse me, 595 price point's been absolutely crushed. I think it was down to 4 and change. 488, yep. So does it go up? Does it go down? I have no idea. But what am I doing? I'm twamming. I love the new portal that just got launched. That's off the hook. Oh. Let's go back. Why is it? There you go. So twamming. Got a twammy. 25 chip over 14 days. It's just twamming. I'm just going to let it twam. That's cool. I love this new interface. I have a very high opinion of the concept in play, and it's nothing like Luna, and it's nothing like what social media presents stablecoins to be. It's the only way to understand what this is to have a macroeconomic perspective, put it into macro context, and understand each of the components of the system and how it works. There's nothing in the crypto space that is doing anything remotely comparable to what Sam has built, Sam and team. It's groundbreaking in countless regards. The monetary policy is spectacular. Everything that they talk about in the docs and explaining the components of the system, it's quite extraordinary, and I think it's systemic. And I told you guys, what am I looking for? I'm looking for survivability. I have a very concentrated portfolio, and folks are like, why are you only like Curve? And I'm like, has anything else survived? What is going to survive? Not some. These are the protocols that are going to survive. Why? Because back in 2017, everything ripped to the upside. In 2018, everything died. It literally died. There's two protocols. There's only two protocols from 2017 that have flourished, and they haven't gone to infinity and beyond, but they flourished, and that's Syscoin and Bancor. Out of all that craziness in 2016 and 17, the only thing that remains is Syscoin and Bancor. There's other tech, and there's some comebacks, like Blocknet could maybe come back, but Everything else died. And the question becomes, what survives this cycle? And yeah, you could go out on the risk curve and bet on smaller protocols and can have greater returns, but I'm not in this business. I'm not in this chair. I'm not doing this YouTube stream for the greatest returns. I'm in this chair to survive. I'm in this chair to teach you guys how to take less risk, how to make less money, how to have more predictable results instead of having a chance at making a fortune or having a chance at ruining your portfolio. So, yes, Curve is in my opinion, an extraordinary protocol that even with from crypto proponents is misunderstood. Because nobody else talks to the Federation. And the Federation has the dollar written all over it. There is a mandate, and it's a spoken mandate. And it's not even up to a subjective choice to purchase or not purchase Curve. It's designed into protocols to purchase Curve, unquestionably, to such a degree that the majority of Curve is not in circulation. It's actually quite scarce. Now, clearly, that has nothing to do with price action. All that means is there's less Curve in circulation, which means you can have increased volatility when encountering cash liquidity. You can the sell pressure will go down faster, and the buy pressure will go up faster because there's less of it in circulation. So, and Frax. The core of my portfolio is Curve, Frax, and Convex. And I'm tempted to concentrate the Convex position into Curve when the VLCVX unlocks. Albeit, Convex just reached 51% ownership of locked Curve. So that's meaningful. I don't really have any sentiment that they're going to be maliciously used in any way. I just think on the topic that we talked about months ago when Tentradode said, yeah, Convex, the bribes are unlimited. Yes, they are, but the bribes are also unlimited on Curve. So why do I need to own both? That's too much asset, too much ownership of the same narrative. Let's just concentrate that shit into the ECRV and it'll do just fine. And at some point, I could speculate, or I do speculate, that individual voting of ECRV will be scarce. The majority of VECRV will be owned by protocols, which will be doing their own voting directly at the Curve protocol level. So they won't be available to participate in bribing, in incentivized voting. So nobody could come along and pay them to vote a particular way. The protocols own their VECRV, so they're voting according to their own interest. So the amount of retail VECRV holders available to be incentivized will be quite scarce. At least that's the directionality that I see. I have my other speculative bets, but they're microscopic. You guys, and look what has happened. What has happened? The market has completely imploded, and the core of the portfolio has done well, according to the way I measure the portfolio. People have lost their shirts, but my portfolio is still there. And what is my goal? My goal is to survive, because if we survive to the next bullish cycle, everything goes up. You could throw shit at the wall and it's going to go up. I mean, holy shit, the shit on the wall is going up. Could you just see that? Could you visualize that? Excuse me. So, survive. That's all that matters. And then we have the whole macro talk that we just had about a critical lack of employment. Then we have the macro talk about dollars and Forex markets and the DXY and the derivatives markets and the bond yields and all that shit, trying to speculate when liquidity will start to flow back into the system My favorite conversation, which is looking at the crypto space as an emerging market. Shit, there's so many things to be excited about. This is the most exciting space, and everyone just runs away, and everyone's so critical. Critical, not constructive, critical. It's unfortunate. And I think it's very unfortunate because even my favorite macroeconomists haven't mentioned the things that I talk about. I wish I could convey what I just said in this stream, the beginning of the stream, that idea, that concept, that reality to my favorite macroeconomists. And I think they would have a very interesting response and entertain it. Be like, oh shit, I didn't think about that. Because you guys know I have my favorite macroeconomists. But guess what? Who's got to be your most favorite macroeconomist? This guy. I'm my most favorite macroeconomist. I see things that they don't see because I'm me. My own opinions, my own observations. That's the deal. Let me help you guys with a couple more questions. Credit card use is all time high. People don't have money when recession. Now we're in a recession. I don't need someone else to tell me if we're in a recession. I see everything crumbling. Shishk, interesting title. I would say the idea of crypto being used to get out of poverty will never happen, and it doesn't work like that. It's not about poverty. It's about employment and psychology. The topic today is more about tackling the unemployed, and the unemployed doesn't necessarily mean to be enriched. It's about literally to just be occupied, which is greater than not being occupied and having no purpose at all, no goals, no activity, no coordinated, organized efforts and actions. So it's not just about being enriched. Governments will always perpetuate people staying poor to keep the economic machine going. Yes, but they also cannot keep you too poor because then you have people rioting in the streets and you have social unrest. So the mandate of the government is to maintain social order above all else. And it's not just a conversation about money. By the time the general masses can use crypto for passive income, no, passive income, this is an we are seeing something that most will never see. Passive income is not an entitlement, it's not something that will solve anything. This is something that few will be able to take advantage of. This is not for the masses. Shishk, this is a market that is presenting an opportunity that most are afraid of or cannot process. That's how extraordinary it is. The masses are not meant for passive income. The masses need different types of activity. And this enters the conversations that the WEF has. There's a reason they talk as they do. The masses cannot handle socialism. And that is empirically shown throughout history. The masses need it's a whole different conversation. I'm not going to get into country building and WEF type conversation because that's a complex topic, and I would rather focus on exactly what I just said regarding passive income and the opportunity that we see. Believe me, you know how many people are depressed that have excess money or are miserable because they have all this passive income and they don't know what the fuck to do with their time or their money. So it doesn't solve anything. So the conversation really today is more so about psychological stability and the mandate of the government to maintain social order. But societies will always need people to keep the economic machine moving. Well, no, they don't need people for the economic machine. What they need is productivity. They need to create. They need to take natural resources and manufacture things, especially things to eat and things. So the machine is really about organizing labor and keeping people occupied. And really, the ultimate goal, as I've said, is social order and organizing people to be productive rather than sedentary. Because one thing with the idle hands are the devil's playground. A lot of this stuff is very biblical, um, and we could draw on talk of morality from religious texts and on how we could assess what the government needs to do to have the best possible society. So you see, you got me digressing, bro. Hey Noah, thanks for making content during a bear market. Yeah, I don't see this as a bear market. This is a bull market. Information asymmetry. This is the time to outperform with regard to understanding how the world works. What the heck is money? What the heck is your purpose? What gives your days meaning? What makes you satisfied? And for me, I love understanding this stuff. The more I understand the world, the more I understand my place in it. And maybe my place is doing exactly what I do and trying to help other people understand the things that I have come to understand. Um, Human interaction. Would you rather a robot cut your hair or a real person? Well, there'll be businesses that do both. And markets will determine which one is will survive. It's all survivability. It all comes down to survivability. Because I guarantee you, a lot of people are going to want their hair automatically cut in 30 seconds rather than a human doing it in 15 minutes. And there's a lot of people that are going to want a human because they're going to want to talk to their barber, they're going to have a whole experience. But these are going to be products and services that you will see in the coming years. It's absolutely guaranteed. Important to note that this chart is not a chart of unemployment, but of employees. My wife doesn't work, but that doesn't mean she's categorized as officially unemployed. That is exactly true. But, and she contributes. So my wife as well, she's technically unemployed, but I tell her all the time that she's employed doing things around the house. But I promise you, she reminds me all the time that she wants group activity, that she misses work because she was contributing to an organized effort. So what does she do? She seeks out parent teacher, the PTA, to work at my daughter's school. But guess what? They only go to school for how many years? There's no PTA in middle school and high school. So at an entire the society level, there's a we go back to the origins of the stream, the beginning of the stream. So I absolutely understand what you're talking about, Patrick, and I've considered that, and it's still the case. Thank you. Good point. Dan, good morning. Much a pleasure, my friend. I think some BTC Maxis are starting to accept the validity of stablecoins, even though, well, bear in mind, shitcoin networks, stable. Yeah, they could. They none of them. There's not a damn Bitcoin maximalist that talks about Eurodollars and what Jeff Snyder talks about, the disinflation of the Eurodollar, and they don't understand the very thing that I say is digital Eurodollars, and we have an extreme lack of currency in the globe. It's a disinflationary global currency system that causes capital misallocation, concentrations in pockets of capital where it's direly needed, and over concentrations or lack of concentrations of capital where it's direly needed, and over concentrations of capital where it's not needed. And that's where you get inflation, consumer price inflation. So what is Frax? What did Luna? What is USDC? What is Tether? You're not USDC. USDC is just a fiat on and off ramp. But Tether is literally a CDP. It is literally a Eurodollar. Technologically, it is functionally it's a Eurodollar. And what is a MIM and Abracadabra? What is Cheetao? These are positions that take assets and collateralize them to produce or access the equity contained within. It facilitates what the Eurodollar does, as well as what traditional commercial banks do with regard to double entry accounting. If there's assets that are collateralized and then there's new capital that's created or borrowed against it, that's the creation of capital. These are critical systems that the world desperately needs. And then we need to solve how to alleviate the misallocation of capital. That's a whole separate topic. But you need the capital, you need the expansion of capital. Jeff Snyder talks about it wonderfully, that the disinflationary global supply of capital is deflationary and it's crushing. And this inhibits the maximum potential of society and the maximum productivity of society, which is deflationary. You know, that's the deal. Hilda's in the house, always a pleasure. Brian, howdy. One curious view. Hidden Hand starting to get traction on bribes a little bit. Nothing very interesting. Interestingly enough, Warden with three relatively large bribes, cranking out 50, 60%, is pretty big. So that's good to see. I think there's bribes on Tokamak. Tokamak's got a couple of bribes, a couple $100,000 on Dodo and Rook. But they're saturated. There's a lot of Tok out there, so it's not a very lucrative bribe. It'd be nice if they put up a percent return, so I think they should add that. Um, so Warden, this is great. I mean, we're going back to the core of the portfolio, the curve. Now it pays. It pays. This is that passive income dream that few will see. Most will fear. Almost everyone won't understand. It's right here on a website that won't be believed because it's impossible to be paid without working 9 to 5. We can do better, and we will. Uh, will Frax swap allow TWAP purchases on all assets? It's just pretty much FXS. There's other protocols. Was it crypto condom that the condom that mentioned other types of AMMs that TWAP. And like Uniswap, it's just boring stuff. We need some new stuff. We need exactly what you're looking for. We need swaps that'll do it over a day, buying the TWAP into position, so you get the best possible position. That'll produce a much more smooth market rather than these sudden spikes up and down as people buy up order books. No, TWAP, 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 nice and smooth, nice and smooth. What's the exact benefit of TWAP over Duchessness over Frax UI? Over on Frax UI? I think you're talking about what's the benefit of twapping. Twapping gives you the best possible rate. It buys according to the TWAP. Let's look at the curve chart, and we're going to wrap up the stream in a couple minutes. So where's the TWAP in here? Let's go out to the weekly, and you'll see it. TWAP's up here in red. If we hide the Super Guppy, if we hide the Keltners, you can see the TWAP right here. Time weighted average price. So twapping to the up, if it's above it, twapping would buy when it hits the TWAP, when it hits the TWAP, when it hits the TWAP. I don't know how it works to the downside of the TWAP, so I don't fully understand how it works, but I understand the benefit of it. You want to buy at a more opportunistic time, and you want to have a smoother curve. And I've showed you guys this chart before, because look, if you turn off the price chart, this is the most meaningful way to look at assets, the average price over time. And I think it's not looked at enough. Let's look at Bitcoin real quick. Ethereum. Is Bitcoin? Nope, that's the dollar. Here's Bitcoin. Let's turn off the price. There's the price. Let's turn off the weekly moving averages, the Keltner channels, and the symmetrical moving average. And this is obviously denominated in money supply. So this is on the monthly. Let's go into the weekly. Excuse me. So here's your average price point. Let's put it into US dollars. So the average price is significantly elevated compared to the average price in 2018. So 2018 high is $12,000. People talk about $20,000 all-time high. Average high was 12 grand. And now the average high is 37, where the average high topped out at 54, and it's sitting at 36. The average price is 3 times what it was 4 years ago. After all of this selling, everyone's like, this is the most bearish, this is a bear market. It's going down, it's being sold. Yet the price is 3 times what it was at the top, the very top of a blow off top in 2018. Bear in mind that was the TWAP high of March 2018. If you put the price point back on, the blow off top was in December 2017. But it dipped down, but it still pulled up the average price over time. So it gives you a very different perspective looking at the average price point. 37 compared to 12. So can't look at shit the way everyone on Twitter looks at stuff. You can't look at stuff the way the YouTubers look at them. We got to look at things differently. You know who had an interesting video the other day? It was Nicholas Murden. I think it was maybe a day or two ago. He was breaking out, dominating by money supply. He was actually it's quite nice to see. I don't look at many crypto YouTubers, but he tends to be quite well spoken or decently spoken and quite reasonable. Was it Data Dash? Data Dash. One curious view. Yes, you can TWAP any asset pair on mainnet. Can you? No way. Excuse me. No, well, yeah, it's still restricted though. You got a little bit. I don't know what you mean by any asset pair, but it's all good. Anyway, let's wrap it up for today. Stick to the core portfolio. I wouldn't over allocate to these types of markets. You know, we can have capitulation events. We can have some liquidity crises still. Yes, you want to follow Stephen Van Meter. He'll be the sportscaster for as that plays out, if it plays out. There's plenty of reasons the Fed capitulates. There's plenty of reasons they just let it keep going. But the market's a mess. And be protective because in the end you need cash to pay bills, so you can't spend all your cash. And so don't get into too much of a position. Be rational. Be concentrated. Don't go all in. Don't spread too thin. You know the deal. You know the phrases over the years. Wednesday, June 8th, 12:26 p.m. As always, thank you all for joining me. I truly appreciate all of you. Tell everyone to subscribe. We can help only those who listen, and you know we can do better. After party on Discord for the most rational community in the entire crypto space. Love all you guys in there. I will see you guys on Friday. You all have a good one now. Peace.